Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Business Idea Insight YouTube channel. I'm so stoked you're back to watch another resource. And if this is your first time here, my name's Mike, and I'm the founder of Business Idea Insight. So in today's video, I want to talk about why you should consider not raising money for your business idea. I'm going to go into some of the benefits about not raising money, some misconceptions why entrepreneurs think they need to raise money, and some examples of companies out there that are already successful and that have done so without taking on outside investment. I believe this is really going to help your entrepreneurial journey. So there could be several reasons why you'll want to raise money. So I want to cover a few here so you can understand. And some of the reasons I'm going to cover are really common reasons why new entrepreneurs want to raise money. And sometimes they're not very valid, and I want to go into that as well. By understanding some of the reasons why people want to raise money and the good and bad reasons, you'll be able to assess yourself if you've chosen one of those reasons that isn't necessarily the right path for raising money. And you'll understand this in a second here. So the first common reason is that newer aspiring entrepreneurs will say, I need to raise money because I don't have enough money to develop a prototype for my business idea. And this is where mistakes are made. You see, if you don't have enough money to invest and develop a prototype for your business idea, investors aren't going to take you seriously when you approach them with the idea and tell them that you can't even develop a prototype for them to consider. Investors want someone who's serious about it and who's taken the time and invested their own money and time to build up that prototyping concept so the investors can have confidence in your business. So if you don't have the money for the prototype for your idea right now, I suggest you head back to the drawing board and look at starting a side business. If you can start a business with the own money you have in your bank account and your own skills, you'll be able to build up something that can generate you income. And down the road, you can take that income and invest it into the business ideas that need that prototype. And one of the second reasons I see newer aspiring entrepreneurs do that they shouldn't is trying to raise money because they need a massive marketing budget and they need to hire a lot of staff. A huge and common misconception among new and aspiring entrepreneurs is that you need this massive marketing budget and you need 200 people to work for you to make this business successful. And this is a misconception that I struggled with even when I looked to start my first business. I had all these ideas and I constantly thought that I needed to spend all this time and find all these investors that can give me money. When in reality, I just needed to grow a business organically, and I had to choose a business idea that I could launch myself. You see, if you have an idea, you're going to have a very hard time from investors to get all this money. If you haven't invested anything yourself, or you don't have any proof it's been validated, or you have paying customers, people are going to hesitate to give you their money. I mean, wouldn't you? So if you're looking to start a business and you need this massive marketing budget and all these employees, I want you to really think. Do you really? Maybe you can start small. Maybe you can tweak the idea so you can start it as a side business to something that can grow up to where you're building that revenue and you can take on investment later to get that cash flow injection for that marketing budget. But right now, if you're looking to raise money because you need a massive marketing budget and employees, I want you to rethink where you're at. And I want you to consider starting small. There's a few reasons why it will be good to raise money, and I just want to cover one of them here so you guys are fully understanding what I'm trying to get at. So a common reason I see why people should raise money is that they have validated their idea in the marketplace and they already have pre-paying customers. You see, at this point, if you've done your market research and proven that the problem you're solving is going to provide value to people, and the solution you're presenting to people is a solution they want to see, and you already have customers willing to pay for that, that's going to show investors that you've done the legwork, you've done the research, and you can prove to them that there's money to be made in this market. You see, investors don't want to jump in and invest in your business if it's going to be a huge risk to them and they don't know if the market is even ready for you, the solution you have. But if you've gone forward and validated the idea in the marketplace, and you have money from potential customers, investors will see that you've gone forward and you've tested this in the marketplace and that there's a lower risk for them to invest in your business as there is more potential for money to be made. So now that we went over some of the common reasons why new and aspiring entrepreneurs think they should raise money but shouldn't, I want to jump into some of the benefits of growing a business organically and doing it without getting outside investment. So the first reason is you'll have decreased distractions. You see, when you're looking to raise money, you'll typically have to plan for about 6 to even 18 months of your calendar to be filled up with meeting with investors, possibly traveling around the world for these meetings, developing your presentations, networking, and other meetings with lawyers and accountants to prepare the documentation to get that first round of investment. You see, this can take a lot of time. And if this is your first time starting a business, you really want to consider, are these distractions going to be worth it? Is spending that 6 to 18 months really going to be worth your time when this is your first business you're starting and you really need to focus on getting those first few clients, nailing down your business processes, and finding the business model that works for you and your company? So you'll have a lot of less distractions if you choose to develop a business idea that you can launch organically. And you can do so by launching a side business, which I recommend highly. The second benefit is you have decreased startup costs. You see, when you're looking to raise money, you'll have to travel everywhere, like I previously mentioned, to possibly network with investors and possibly have those meetings where you can get that investment if you don't have a network where all the investors are in your city where you live. That increased traveling, those lawyer expenses to draft the documents, the accountant expenses to make sure the money is flowing correctly. All these things add up, and they can easily add $10,000 to $50,000 to your startup costs just because you're looking to raise money. And that's an extra amount of money you'll need to raise because you'll need to cover that if you don't have savings yourself. So one of the benefits of growing a business organically is you'll have decreased startup costs. You can focus on the core costs of your business instead of having to worry about all this investment management and expenses related to that. A third benefit is less stress. Starting a company on its own can be a stressful experience. Not only do you have to worry about paying for the bills that you need to live, such as your rent and food, but you also have to worry about managing all the departments in the business as you start. Finance department, the marketing department, the customer service department, the sales department. These will all be your responsibility, especially when you start out on your own, as it usually is for all new founders. And this can be stressful, especially if you haven't done it before. So when you take outside investment, you're only going to be adding to this stress. You see, investors, they expect a return on their investment. So if you miss a quarterly revenue target, they're not going to be very forgiving. They're going to want their money, and you're going to have to build a ROI on that money that they invest in your company. So that could mean working longer hours, missing out on key parts of your life that you wish you were enjoying, not having to worry about meeting these revenue targets. You know, for instance, if you're building a company and it's become a success in your mind, and you've reached the revenue limits that make you happy, but you've taken on outside investment, your investors may not be happy with that level and may require you to work harder and longer just to meet those. And in the end, you could end up being unhappy and ultimately more stressed. And so growing a business organically, you don't have to worry about taking on that outside investment, and you don't have to worry about that stress of generating that ROI. The only ROI you need to generate is for your money and for you to be happy. The fourth reason is you get a larger equity stake when you don't take outside investment. See, a huge part of wealth creation when you're an entrepreneur is building up that equity in the company where you can sell the company down the road or be able to generate profits for yourself while someone else runs it. That equity component is a huge part of why entrepreneurs start a business. They're building a system and then they're building an asset that is ultimately theirs. However, when you take on outside investment, these investors are going to expect a stake in the company. They want a piece of equity. So you're going to have to sell a piece of your company. This can be hard as a new entrepreneur. You're really selling your baby, your pride and joy, your asset that you've been putting so much time and possibly your own money into. And the more investment you take, the more equity will be taken from your company. So down the road, if you've built a company where you've already raised money, but you run into a problem where you need to raise more money, that ultimately means you're going to have to sell more of your company and you'll have less equity stake. So keep this in mind. Do you really want to give up equity in your business just to have that kickstart when you launch? It can be a common misconception that giving away equity is good. And I want to give you an example of why you should consider keeping larger portions of your equity stake in your own company. Apple, as you know, is a huge public company now. But back in its day, when Steve Jobs started it, he sold a lot of his equity that he owned, the majority. So he owned less than 50% of the company. At this time, he was running the company. But you see, if you own less than the majority share, the other shareholders can vote things about how the company's run, where it's headed, and ultimately the vision of the company. And back in the 1990s, they voted to kick Steve Jobs out of the company, and he was no longer CEO of his own company that he built. And that's because he took on such large outside investment and diluted his own equity position so low that he didn't have that control. So if that control is important for you as an entrepreneur, you should really consider if starting a business organically is right for you versus taking outside investment, as you can sometimes lose control of your own company. And the fifth and final reason I want to cover why you should start your business organically rather than taking outside investment is that you don't have to deal with the headaches of loans. Now, I know I talked a lot about taking investment from investors such as venture capitalists or other angel funds or even your friends and family, but loans can be a common outside investment strategy used, and it can be a real headache. You see, with loans, and especially with a new business, even if you were to secure a loan, which is very rare, you'll have the headache of having to pay these loans and pay the interest. You see, when you're starting out, every dollar of revenue is important. And so if you have loans, you're going to have to servicing that debt. And so you're going to have to take a percentage of the new revenue you're making to use that to service your debt, pay the interest, as well as come up with money to pay the principal, the money you actually borrowed. And so this can be a real headache as a new entrepreneur, especially if you don't have a background in finance and say you may have skills in software developing and you're really just focusing on the product. The last thing you want to be doing is arguing with the bank over interest payments and the principal payments, etc. So before we move on to the examples of successful companies who have grown organically, I want you to consider one thing, and that's raising money from your friends and family. I know this can be tempting. Your friends and family can have a lot of belief in you, and they can also have a lot of money that they can help you grow your company. However, when you get investment from friends and family, it adds a different dynamic to your company, as well as your relationship you have with them. For instance, your friends may be looking to profit from you. They could be expecting their money back, and if you lose it, that could be a real hardship on your friendship with your friends or family. Family members may be disappointed if that business fails, or they may be looking for more money if it's successful. So I want you to consider that. The last thing you want to do is also put your family and friends in a bad position if they took out loans or debt to invest in your company. If it fails, they could be in a really bad situation, and I don't really want you to end up there, especially if this is your first business. So there are so many examples of companies that have grown to be very successful businesses without the need for taking on outside investment or loans. And a couple of these has been Gary Vaynerchuk's own VaynerMedia, a huge company that has blown up recently, GitHub, Best Buy, Zoho, and these are just a few. You see, these are big name brands, and I wanted to use them to showcase to you that you can build a billion-dollar company without having that outside investment. You can start organically. You can reinvest your profits and revenues as you make them, and you can grow a business where you have more equity stake, less distractions, and less stress, and a company that ultimately is more your own asset. And so if you're wondering how you can start small and how you can actually develop a business idea that you can launch yourself without outside investment, I've included a link in the description below to my Finding the Fit ebook. This ebook is designed for new and aspiring entrepreneurs just like you, and I really think it's going to benefit you. So thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope you have a great day.